Whenever you're ready.
So Lisa, I know that health and food and now entrepreneurship has been a massive part of your life. And I've known you for, I don't know, maybe 10 years.
Crazy, yeah.
So can we go way back and see how all of this got instilled in you? Because this doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
This is a brewing type of a situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for asking and thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's fun to be here with you again.
No, you look amazing,
Thank
by
you.
the way.
Right back at you. Thank you very
Gracias.
much. It's the chroma. It's chroma gaming. Well, I sort of always tell the story that it started when I was little, really, when I remember being afraid of, like, what if you go to the doctor and they tell you something bad? And I hated that feeling since I can remember just thinking, like, what can I do? How can I feel empowered with my health? I didn't like the fact that it just didn't feel like it was in my hands.
Right.
And so, I didn't really know what that meant. I just knew that I didn't like the feeling. And then I think fast forward through the years, and then, of course, when you have an ailment, whether it's a headache or something's wrong, you go to the doctor, they give you a pill. And that never felt right for me either. I was like, well, isn't there a different way?
So this was just you independently
This
thinking?
is independently, like through my 20s and 30s, sort of just like kind of questioning all of this, but this was before food as medicine was, obviously, apothecary, it's been a thing for a long time,
Yeah.
but we weren't talking about it as a society.
Right.
So it was ahead of juice cleansing and all of the movement that's happened now. This was just like, eat well, but we didn't really know what that meant. And,
No.
and actually, like, if you think about it, sorry, I'm gonna bash a couple brands, but like whole grain goldfish we thought meant we're good for you.
Whole grain anything.
Whole grain anything.
Whole wheat anything.
Whole wheat tins and these things, and if it said organic, we thought it was good.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that, and we thought we were doing good things. So whole grain goldfish is a great example. I was a mom at a young age, 26, had 3 kids, and as I was getting older, so in my late 30s, a couple kind of main moments happened. One is, as I was getting older, hormones were changing.
Right.
Started to feel the inflammation, the foggy brain, eyes weren't as bright, just didn't, gaining weight, hair was thinning, right? And my husband at the time, same thing. Our workouts weren't as strong, and we were both very fit. We had 3 little kids. My daughter was, at the time, she was about 9 or 10, and she had been on ADD medication. And I hated that. I was like, this is not right. But I knew she needed something because she wasn't able to focus in school.
Right.
And so the ADD medication caused mood disorder. And so then she had to go on another medication. And that caused her to be almost catatonic. And so my baby girl had no zing, no just life to her. And just sort of walked around catatonic, which of course as a parent is horrifying.
Yes.
Didn't know what to do. And so this kind of whole thing, what can I do? There has to be something different. This can't be the answer. Simultaneously with my husband and I both kind of going through our stuff, simultaneously with 2 little tiny boys bouncing off walls. And
it was a lot.
It was a lot of things that all sort of led to getting to the answer.
Yeah.
Right? So then at the same time, I was in transition with companies and different entrepreneurial things I had done, and I was sort of had gone into this quiet space. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna create. I'm gonna wait for the message. And it was really uncomfortable. I kind of call it no man's land, because I like to create, I like to do. And I was like, nope, we're not gonna do. We're gonna sit here and just go, all right. It's gonna come, and I was crawling out of my skin.
Yeah.
And I was at an event in New York, Marie Forleo event. This was 14 years ago. And a woman by the name of Chris Carr spoke, which I'm sure you've heard of. And she wrote Crazy Sexy Diet. She did the whole kind of cancer, kind of healing through food, told her story, really started a lot of the juice cleansing stuff. I had not heard of her at the time, but she's really such a pioneer in this space. And she spoke, and I'll never forget that moment, because as she was speaking, she really zeroed in on the fact that we have a responsibility to take control of our health, and it starts with what you eat, drink, and think. And the way she does it, she's very witty and she's funny and she's beautiful and vibrant. And
Eat, drink, and think.
It's the our health is what we eat, drink, and think.
Yeah.
That's what it starts with. When you
Yeah.
really think about it, it's the basics.
It
What you
is.
put in your body, what you think, your thoughts, right? Which their thoughts also create stress.
Right.
Right? So when you kind of peel it all back, it's that simple and not, right? So I'm listening to her and everyone was captivated by her. And I looked at my friends because I saw like the vibration of the room lifting. And I was like, everyone just could not take enough in of what she was saying. And I looked at my friend and I said, my God, that woman is beaming. And that began sort of my like real dive into food as medicine, wanting to learn everything I could about how using food could heal.
So there was the birth of the name of Beaming.
Beaming.
Which was a place to go to get the most amazing food, smoothies, all kinds of things that we had never seen.
Yeah.
So the name came first. But your ability, though, to make these things couldn't have just happened then.
So it did, I mean, obviously it happened, there was a couple of years of process that happened. So what I did first was like, didn't understand what that meant at the time, right? All I knew is I have to do something. Went to IIN, nutrition school, read every book I could get my hands on, and the things that really triggered everything for me to then create Beaming and now Chroma and everything else I do was I started to make these changes in my own home, right? And so really started to understand that whole grain goldfish aren't good for you. Wheat thins are not. Whole grain goldfish have blue and red dyes in them, and no wonder my kids were spazzes.
Yeah.
And then understood the triggers, and specifically for my daughter, right? So any type of gluten, sugar, dairy, wheat, processed foods, too much meat, especially non-organic, anything like that, alcohol, etc., is an inflammatory, right? So when you put those in your body, we all have some sort of response, but especially if you have any type of extra sensitivity, where it could, especially with an ADD situation, cause inflammation in the brain, which then doesn't allow, in her case, her brain to fully function.
Right.
At no point in any of the discussions with the doctors was that brought up.
Of course not.
So I removed all the inflammatories of gluten, wheat, sugar, dairy, because the kids, they love pizza.
So
They
wait,
love
how
pasta.
long ago? So this was 13 years ago?
This is 13, 14 years ago.
So, okay, 12, 13 years ago, my son who also has ADHD, which it's a terrible thing to go through.
It's awful.
As a parent, because you're constantly searching for what's wrong with them, and you don't know. It's terrible, and then the only solution being offered to you is what?
Medication.
Okay, so, and that, you're right, one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
But food was never entered
conversation.
into the conversation at all.
No, never. And then I'd hear other parents talking about their child who has migraines. And then they go to the doctor, and the doctor gives them migraine medication. And I said, well, do you want to check and see if maybe they have a gluten sensitivity? And sure enough, it was gluten. My daughter, when she was little, she had ear infections all the time. At no point was the question asked, maybe she's allergic to milk, right? Because we were feeding them bottles of milk or soy, right?
Yeah.
We did a lot of soy milk then. She was allergic to milk and soy. So she went on antibiotic after antibiotic after antibiotic, which killed her gut flora, something we actually struggled with, which also affected the ADD.
Yeah.
And once again, never once was the conversation like, hey, let's check for any type of allergies, food allergies.
Yeah.
So it was all of these things. And then, of course, my daughter now, we kind of fast forward, I do this test on her, remove the inflammatory triggers for the brain. And in 2 weeks, she's totally fine, does not need medication anymore, and is able to fully function in school and moves into honors classes.
Unbelievable.
Right?
You know who got pissed off though, don't you?
Yeah.
Big Pharma.
Oh yeah.
It's
Big time.
one less
Big time. Oh, this is like the worst
medication.
conversation ever for them, right? And it's, which is so sad, and which is why we have to get, and I say this from 2 viewpoints. So I am not one that goes out and just like starts this kind of whole propaganda and like that's to like scream, from the mountaintop, right? I get to have these kind of conversations where I get to like give the backstory of like how these like beaming and this has happened.
Saw it. You saw
where I
the
saw
results.
it, I've lived it, and I think all of us have stories like this.
Yeah.
And I think part of what my message is really to become much more intuitive and connected to our bodies and listen to like our gut, right? Whether it's our own health or it's our children's health, right? Like to challenge, Western medicine. There's a place for it, absolutely.
Agreed.
But to challenge it and listen to like, hey, have I done what I need to do to really make sure I'm eating well, or I'm making sure I'm feeding my family well before I run to go get the quick fix?
Because here's the deal, we're set up to want the quick fix. We want the pill to
100%.
be given to us and your symptoms to go away. But that's not how it works. The pill not only creates more symptoms, but it masks the reasons why you have these things. I mean,
100%.
Lisa, I'm sure you're very aware of the fact that there's like an epidemic of autoimmune, of chronic illnesses out there. So we all have to be doing something similarly, in essence, to be afflicted with all of these things.
We do, and I'm going to say something that, of course, is going to get like all the different kind of controversy, but one of my biggest frustrations is in COVID, right? So what was the conversation? The conversation was never about your diet. It was never about eating well and managing stress and exercise. It was about a vaccination. It was never about, hey, everybody, those of you who are not taking care of yourselves are more vulnerable. There's a direct correlation. Right? Yes, there's that one-off stories, right? And that exists anytime, anywhere.
Of course.
But why are we not having that conversation? Why are we not talking about the fact that if you can improve your immunity, right, and you can take control of your health, going back to what Chris Carr was saying, then you are empowered to be less vulnerable to whether it's COVID or something else, right? And that conversation still isn't happening. And I'll go one step further, which really irks me, and that is the people who got vaccinations. What happened? McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts offered free donuts for people who got vaccinations, which is completely contradictory.
Well, which has been part of the memes, which is do we know what's in a Big Mac? Do we know what's in a lot of the foods that we consume?
Yeah.
We don't.
We don't.
We don't take the time to learn. But with an epidemic of people being so sick, chronically sick, it's time to take all of that back. And that is why having you on is such a huge value, because I know you know about food, and I know you know the effects of food and combinations and things that we don't, look, I'm an average person. John's an average person.
Mm-hmm.
Tall
but average.
Tall but average. This is true. It's hard to be the doctor, be the nutritionist, be all the things and wear all the hats that you have to wear in order to be healthy. But you have to do it.
You have to do it. And I'll go so far as saying, once I really got into it, I realized it wasn't as hard as we were making it. And that was where sort of my moment of truth happened, right? Like in that, we're all busy, right? And we're all overwhelmed. We have too much information being thrown at us. We're juggling work, we're juggling families, we're juggling kids. We're trying to figure out how to take care of ourselves. We're oversaturated, right? We got our phones binging all the time. So where I really started to think is like, how can I simplify this, right? Because it's actually not as hard as we're making it.
Okay, well, how to simplify it?
And simplifying by let's start with just being more mindful of what you put in your body. Become educated.
Speak to John, because I would like to see him incorporate a little bit more health.
Okay.
I experiment
Apparently, John,
with the foods that I eat.
now.
Yeah.
So I think that, I think we look at this health thing like, ugh, it's too much work. Like, I'm going to have to figure this out. I'm going to have to make the food. I'm going to have to do this. And it literally starts as simple as just like reading the labels of the food you eat, right? Like, just turn it around, look at the labels. And if it looks like it's like a monoglycoside and something that's like you don't recognize, and I don't talk about like superfoods that you don't recognize, like maca and spirulina, but like things that sound like chemicals that were made in a lab, probably not good for you.
Here's a question. When you speak about educating people about health and a lot of these things are like causing extra issues, compounding on the COVID. One of the things I think we don't do enough of as a whole is education about what is healthy eating.
Yeah.
Because I think what a lot of people subconsciously don't see is there are more obstacles to eating healthy than any obstacle in life at all. The food is cheaper when it's bad for you. Mm-hmm. The soda's cheaper when it's bad. Like soda's cheaper than water. I don't know when that took a turn, but it did.
Scary, right?
Yes, and so all these signs, you can get a hamburger for 99 cents. You can get 20 chicken nuggets for $2. Like what?
Yeah.
Like where do all these chickens come from? Like when you're talking about health and you're speaking about these things, the simple things is reading the label. How do we go about getting that information in the hands of people who need it the most?
So I think it's a great question. I think that the problem isn't necessarily getting the information in their hands. I think that the problem is the oversaturation of information and then the contradicting information, right? And it could be as simple as, and so they don't know what to believe, right? Like, I'll use a silly one. One day coffee's good for you, the next article says it's bad for you.
Or wine is good for you.
Wine is good, and then the next day it's not,
you,
right? Well, you can have meat, but make sure it's grass-fed meat, or like it's like this very sort of like it's. And then once again, like people are just like, I'm out, like I can't deal. But I think where we've come so far, especially going back to 13, 14 years ago when I started on this path, we've come so far. We have so much farther to go. But think about like Walmart, Target, Costco.
Organic.
They have organic.
Yeah.
Like you can get organic at places and get a big, beautiful blueberries for, I don't know, $6, $7 that used to cost $6 at a normal grocery store that are organic. So the accessibility is getting much better. And there's just the basics, right, that I think people understand. Like fruits and vegetables are good for you.
Right.
Let's just start with the basics, right? Like, eat more vegetables. So, but we understand that people also are short on time, short on resources, so we're still gonna pull all the boxed things because we need, or the packaged foods, right? Because
quickies.
We need a quick.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not saying that's bad, just read the label, look at what's in that food, right? And yes, it's gonna cost more to do good, but then, I mean, is your health worth it? Is your kid's health worth it? Right? And I think that those options do exist now. I think that 13, 14 years ago they did it. And so that's where we're coming so far, and there's a lot of subsidizing happen. Again, a lot farther we need to go.
You've gained so much knowledge over all this time, and you obviously developed all these products. What was the hardest part of getting to where you are now? Because again, a lot of times people are battling with trying to find the right way,
so true. Yeah.
And not knowing where to start because the task seems so daunting.
Yeah.
It seems so hard. So for people out there trying but feeling like it's too difficult, what would you say was the hardest part for you in your journey through this?
So I love the question. I think I always sort of reference it this way. In some ways, I feel like it was a divine calling for me that I had no choice but to dive in fully and understand it. One of which was because I had a daughter that was not well.
Right.
And so, and then I had myself and my husband at the time, knowing that we were getting older, and I was about to turn 40, and I didn't like how I was feeling as I turned 40. I was like, like we're not going down like this.
Right.
And so by your own experience, right? And then I'm hearing about my friends and the issues and challenges that their kids are having and thinking, I have to do something, right? So my situation's a little bit different because I am that person who didn't have time to deal. I am the exact same person who was overwhelmed, didn't want to have to figure it out, don't have time to make the food. And I sort of took it in and said, no, you actually have to go figure this out so you can help others and simplify it for others, which was really what the birth of Beaming was about.
Yeah.
Was, okay, let me go make really healthy food that tastes amazing, take the stigma out of healthy is yuck.
Because it's supposed to be nasty. It's supposed to be nasty. Health is supposed to be nasty.
It is, I mean.
Supposed to smell bad, supposed to taste
you
bad, supposed to
immediately
look
react to
bad.
that, right?
Yeah. That's my thing.
So I was like, I'm gonna change it. I'm like a foodie, right? I love really good food. It's one of my greatest pleasures in life, right? And so, and I also believe in balance. So the other piece of this is it's not about like making every perfect decision, right? I'd love for you to stay away from chicken nuggets and things like, you know, and processed hamburgers, that would be good.
Right.
Diet Coke, those would be like, and Red Bull, those would be my big ones. But like, yeah, go out and enjoy a glass of wine and meatballs or tequila or whatever. Like it's not about taking the things away that you love. It's about being more mindful about what you put in your body and having and feeling empowered, because you feel really good when you're empowered, right? Because you're like, oh, like I'm doing something good for myself. And it's little steps that build on themselves. So Beaming was really about that. It was like, okay, let me make healthy taste amazing and take the stigma away, make a great juice, a great smoothie.
Yeah, but you didn't just make she didn't just take a couple little things and put them together and go like, it was incredible, the foods that she
It
combined.
was really good. I really miss it.
No, it
was really
honestly
good.
was in those balls that you had.
Yeah.
Wait, would they? No, I don't think they were balls,
Wait
but
till
they
you
were.
try this. The
okay.
cookie, they were the Beaming
like,
bites.
Yes.
The Beaming bites, and
You just
I've
go-
recreated that inspiration in this.
Okay.
You're gonna die.
Well, we're gonna get
It's
on to
pretty
your
good.
newest.
But I think so. But thank you for that, and because I needed that for me. Like I created Beaming because I needed it. I didn't have time for this, and I wanted to create something that younger people would love, that kids would want to go there instead of McDonald's or some other junk food after sports practice or through, you know, at lunch.
So John has a 2-year-old, so you need to start instilling some of these good food habits with her.
I can't say enough about how important that is because, I mean, first of all, they're forming their taste buds right now.
Right.
One of the biggest mistakes that their father and I made is that we thought it was really cute when our kids would eat chocolate cake and, you know, Reese's peanut butter cups. And again, I love Reese's, so I'm not bashing. But like, why did we feel it was necessary to teach our kid to eat junk food when they wouldn't have known otherwise, because you're creating those taste buds now. If we had just given them, imagine if you just gave them green vegetables,
Right.
they probably really start to like green vegetables, and that's what they'll start to crave. We're the ones that get them to go on to the dark side, right? So if you can get them early to just like healthy food and
Eat
make
those
effort.
peas.
And you guys have so many better options than I did. We had just jars for when I was having, like, my children. My oldest is 23 now. How old are your kids?
My oldest is 33.
Yeah. Okay, so we didn't have these options.
Oh.
I mean,
No.
and nobody was thinking about making homemade food then.
Oh my God.
That, you know, it would be
Even
bad.
now.
Yeah, even now.
I mean, we gotta keep it
I have a lot
simple.
of friends that do. So.
Yeah, no, okay.
But like the food options that exist now are insane
Oh, it's
for
unbelievable.
babies. Like these kids are living large. Ours had like the Gerber little jars, and that
Right.
was about it, right?
Honestly, though, with my son, I fed him organic
'Cause
baby food.
Yeah, all the way like back then.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
They still sell the same organic.
Amazing.
And I can't even remember, Earth something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know
what
what.
you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what made and hormone-free milk, and I don't know why I got on that, but I did.
You were
But-
intuitive. You did.
Yeah, I was, but I wasn't intuitive enough because he did have ADHD
Yeah.
to figure out that food was a connection with it. So, but yeah, you have to
Okay.
start young with all of these good eats, and I get it. You're a product of your environment, and you can only help so much of
Right.
what
Yeah.
is a part of your
Totally.
environment and what's introduced to you. But it's true. We're living in a space now where if you're gluten-free, if you have histamine intolerances or dairy intolerances, there's places to go and eat. You're not
Plenty of
confined to figuring this stuff out on your own. It's like they're available for you.
It's so much easier than I think, again, we're making it. And I think that's true in everything in life. Like, I think that if you try to look at it like I have to change everything and I have to do everything perfectly, we're not going to do it. Like, it's like why January resolutions don't work. Like, they go to the gym and they're all fired up because they're going to start their new year,
Oh, yeah.
new you. And then by the third week of January, you know, the
Failure.
It starts to
Sometimes.
it's just too much, right?
Right.
Like a commitment's too much. It's too much work. But this is like, okay, fruits and vegetables, got it, check, right? Like limit dairy, right? Stay away from processed foods, right? And you know, if you're going to have meat and fish, and again, I'm not a vegan. But you know, I'm very mindful of the meat and fish that I do eat.
So do you
right?
eat grass-fed, organic, no hormone meats?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that's a lot
and
of
you know
meat.
why?
That's a lot of different types.
And you know why? Is because I feel different. So that's actually the part of what, like, through sort of the companies I've created and the foods I've created, it's really about teaching people how good they can feel when they put good stuff in their body. And when you feel that, you don't want to put bad stuff in your body. And again, have your meatballs and, you know, French
Right.
fries and champagne, like totally, that's part of life too. But know when you feel your best, because when your mind is clear and your workouts are strong and you're like, you got energy and you're not exhausted and you're not lagging and your mood is good.
You need to know where that meatball's coming from.
Yeah.
You need to know
Right.
what that cow's been eating.
Right, because all of it's
They're
affecting you.
rolling.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't want that because
Exactly.
whatever that cow consumes, you consume
that cow's
too.
on creatine.
So,
Oh, really? Is that
So one of the other things, because I'm from a low-income area. When I was raised on the south side of Chicago, we didn't have, we were the, you eat what you can get the cheapest and the most of. And
Right.
so that's my background in food. Me doing this podcast is one of the times I've been able to kind of open my mind about dietary habits and forming good habits versus bad habits. And like she said, and like you said, there are now more options,
Yeah.
but even the options are an overload. Because is it Whole Foods? Is it Trader Joe's? Like there's a bunch of, and the options are good, but again, there's an entire row of bad food. There's an entire row of good food. What's good of the good food? Because we know what's bad of the bad food. For people like me and where I come from, how do we go about educating that group of people? Because when we talk about health issues, when we talk about heart disease, when we talk about diabetes, when we talk about these things, these are the people oftentimes suffering from these things. And a lot of this, and I can take from personal experience, it is generational. The negative eating is generational. If I went to dinner, and this is a true story, if I went to dinner with my family at Thanksgiving, I flew to Chicago and said I went to dinner. They tried to offer me something, dripped in something that we've been eating for generations. So now, man, I gotta eat this salad. They throw me out.
Right.
Like, I'd be ridiculed.
You're out. Like,
Right.
you're not invited back.
You're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
I see that.
And it's not one of those things where
I know.
it's, I can have this one meal, like that's all their meals. They're
Wait,
all
what was
their
it
meals.
you said they were eating?
It doesn't matter. It's dripped in something. It's dripping on. So there's the gross, I can tell this.
Gizzards.
No, it's called chitlins, okay? Chitlins,
Chitlins.
they're pig intestines,
Oh boy.
okay? They're boiled, they're skinned, and then they're boiled. It's a 4 to 5 hour process. You're imagine peeling intestines for 3 hours to boil them for another hour and then to feed them to people on Thanksgiving. Like
Wait, so
that's a black family tradition.
is it chewy?
Wow.
Yes.
So it's like a gizzard. So I love chicken gizzards, but when you deep fry them, then they're horrific for you. So I bet that's like a gizzard.
So, and what I'm saying in that is, this was a generational meal. Mothers taught their daughters how to do this. These are bonding experiences that black families go through in doing this. And I'm sure other ethnic groups have the same traditions and things that date back in their history, but the experiences of cooking, the experience of soul food, which is terrible for you. It's soul because it's heavy. It makes you sit down. It makes you pass out, and it touches your soul because you can't get up. That's where soul and soul food comes from. But the idea that is surrounded around that, trying to introduce something new to people who would see that as you're attacking my culture, you're attacking my way of life, you're attacking traditions in my family. How do you break through to that? How do you break through to some of those people? I know that's a very long-winded question.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question, and I don't have the answer. and
that's okay. And that's okay.
And I don't have the answer because I think, I'll go back to some of the basics again, which is it has to take somebody to sort of lead,
Right.
and lead the movement within the family, or someone has to kind of step in and just say, hey, we're gonna
Have a salad.
we're gonna have more vegetables at dinner, right? Like, and I think that because I think from just a human psychology, it's all of those little baby steps build on themselves. There's no way that you're gonna go back and change that.
No,
food.
no.
No way.
No.
And I'm not gonna try to, and you're not gonna try to.
Right.
But if they see you thriving, if they see you doing really well and you're feeling good and you're at the top of your game, they're going to be curious. Right. And I was listening to this podcast yesterday, and I don't know if I'm going to butcher this story, but it was talking about really, like, sometimes when we think that when the problem is so big, we don't do anything, right? But we forget that every one of our interactions throughout the day is a moment to create impact, right? So you smiling at the barista at the coffee shop, right, and saying hello, right? Or if you're at the restaurant and you use the person's name and you ask them their name, and then as they come back, it's like, oh, John, thank you so much for taking such good care of us. Those little in moments, right? Then convey that then into just how you eat, right? You make better choices for you, because that's all you can really control,
right,
is you. So, and again, we're not trying to overhaul your whole diet and everything you do, but am giving you the opportunity to think about my health. Your health is the most important thing you have, right? So as you're younger, as you are, like, sort of feeling like, hey, I'm good.
I'm 40, so I'm not that young.
Okay, well, you're still young, and you look younger, so you're doing something right? So, but as I'm at 50 now, I feel better than I have felt my whole life, right? It's the choices that I've made that have helped me get here, right? My mind is clear, my mood is good, I've got great energy, I don't take hormones. Like, I'm in a really good spot at 50, and I will 100% bet on that is because of my food choices and how I take care of my body. So for me, health is everything. I want to age and be strong as long as I go. I do not want to be 60 and 70 and 80 and on the couch just miserable, right?
And you can change what you also might think that you're predisposed for. Your
100%.
Genetics, your DNA. You can create your own footprint based on how you conduct your life.
Not only that, so I think another important message that I learned, and this is, you can debate the percentages, but 70 to 80% of your health you control. So if 20 to 30% is influenced by environment, so whatever's in the air or water you're drinking, which we can't really control,
right,
and it's worse in some places than others, and the other is just your genetics. But if you could control, let's meet in the middle and say 75% of your health is what you eat, drink, and think, that's goes back to the whole point of what I was saying, is you have a responsibility to do something.
And it catches up with you sooner than later.
It catches up with you.
That's the problem.
My dad, so this is, he'd be horrified, but he hasn't ever hidden this. He ate a McDonald's hamburger, probably just to be spiteful of me and the work I do. Literally would pride himself on eating a McDonald's hamburger every day, first thing in the morning. And I didn't say, and Diet Coke. And I just knew, I'm not gonna change it. He knows my stance on this. Well, guess what? He's all of a sudden, all this inflammation in his body, and he can't play golf, and his back hurts, and his knees hurt, and his body's not cooperating anymore. Now he's 74, so his body stayed with him for all that time, but now he's taken, he's basically added on 15 years because all the things that he loves he can't do anymore. Now he's having surgeries. Now all of a sudden, all that junk in his body finally caught up. And he had vertigo, and he had heart problems when he was drinking Diet Coke, so I finally got that out of his system, but I couldn't get rid of the McDonald's hamburgers until now.
Can you tell people to stop drinking Diet Coke as the solution?
Start there as a simple thing?
Yeah, because a lot of people's hey man, I ate this, but I did have a Diet Coke. It's listen, man.
It's so funny because as I said before, I pick my battles, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually get this preachy, but I get to in this conversation because this is truly what motivates me. This is my why, right? I always say, I'll let you do what you're doing, right? I'll leave you alone, but the diet sodas, and I'm not going to just pick on Coke, it's diet soda, and Red Bull are poison, literally poison. And my mom and the health issues she has are from Diet Cokes over here. There's so much science to back this up. I will let everything else go and just if I can make one impact into anyone listening to this right now, please do not drink the diet sodas. Not only are they incredibly addicting, but they are absolutely poison. Now, the cool thing is, there are a million bubble drinks now, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
that's what you get addicted to. It's the bubbles. And like that just, and like think of how many bubbly drinks there are now. And they're flavored, and you can have the grapefruit and the cherry and you name it, it's
Right.
out there. So those are your replacements. So you're not taking anything away. And I think that's part of the mindset in making healthier choices, is not looking at it as I took it away, but I brought something better in for me. And then next thing you know, you don't want that diet soda anymore. You're loving your bubble drinks, right? And you feel better. And so all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, that was easy. And then you kind of make your next transition. And you add a new thing in. And maybe instead of having a full plate of mashed potatoes and what are those gizzards?
Chitlins.
Chitlins.
She eat gizzards. I forgot chitlins.
Gizzards are delicious.
You ever-
Especially fried, I'm sure.
If you ever have a food conversation with a black person, say, have you ever had chitlins? Their face will do one of two things. They will look like, what the hell are you talking about?
How the hell do you know this?
Or their face will light up and go, how do you know that?
That's amazing. Okay, thank you for that tip. I will remember that, and I'm going to pull that out sometime. I'm going to think of you.
Every little bit helps.
But I think that, like, okay, so still have that, but like maybe have half the plate and then like replace the other one with your vegetables, right? Again, we're not going to change everything, and I'm not on that mission. You brought out something different and much, much bigger. And which is like, how do you educate, especially in lower economic communities?
Right.
That's a whole nother conversation in itself. And I think that is happening, right? Again, there's a lot of different things happening in schools and trying to educate young people, but that the young people are educated, the parents aren't educated, then what's...
And they,
It's a fight in the house.
honestly though, they don't even have grocery stores that have fresh produce
Right.
in lower economic.
Called food deserts.
Yeah.
They're food deserts. Now, you do, but there's even things happening. What's the place, I used to consult for them, and I'm Every Table. And Every Table is all about food deserts. And so they created a beaming like concept that the meals are $5. So more than your chicken nuggets, right? But a really delicious, healthy meal for $5. And they have great funding, and they're all over LA, and they only go into the food deserts. And his vision and mission, Sam, I can't his last name, is like to bring Every Table and concepts like this across the country. So it is happening.
That's good
Right,
news.
it is happening. Now the people still have to make the choice,
Right.
right? But it all starts with choice, right? I made the choice that I didn't want to feel that way. I dove in and tried to figure it out, right? I, wanted to help my child, right?
But we
So-
just have to keep the conversation going so that people understand that there is a direct correlation between the food you eat and your
Yeah.
health.
Yeah.
It's not
100%.
something that because your grandmother had this, that you're going to get this. No, you can change the whole trajectory of your own path.
The obesity problem we have in this country is horrifying.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sorry, but there's no excuse, because we also have access more than any other country to healthy. Now, the excuse is that marketing and the propaganda and all the things telling us, like, eat the chicken nuggets and eat the McDonald's and all that. And so it's that, unfortunately, and of course, Big Pharma and stuff is sort of gets more of the marketing and media attention
Yeah.
than make the healthy choices. Going back to my COVID thing, why were we not having a huge? That was our moment. That was our moment as a country to like have a huge hey guys, let's
Come
get
to
healthy
Jesus
together.
moment on
Yeah.
food, yeah.
Let's do this together. Let's fight this epidemic together. And sure, wear your mask, stay inside, whatever, wash your hands, but eat better, exercise. That was not part of the conversation.
No.
Ever.
Yeah.
And that was the most important part of the conversation. Arguably more than the mask and the washing your hands, right? What do we do with washing the hands? We just killed our body's ability to kill
fight
germs on their own.
we over disinfected
Right.
ourselves. I
Right.
stopped that.
And then
about
we
4
killed
months
our
in.
flora, and so that shame on us. And the doctors that we're trying, the Mark Hymans of the world, and other doctors that Dr. Cole and Dave Asprey and the people that were really trying to spread that message, unfortunately, were quieted. That's a whole other conversation, which I'm not going to go into, but.
One of the things when you talk about people and the obesity in this country, people are proud to be fat. Like that's taken a turn.
Yeah.
That and lately that it's like people say I'm thick, no, you're fat. Like there's a vast difference between being healthy and being a natural body size. Because all bodies are different. So some bodies are naturally heavier than others. And those people may not be overweight because that's just the way that they're physically built.
Yeah, of course.
And some people are fat and they're trying to pretend like they're the other person.
Yeah.
And that's another
Well,
hurdle.
I would challenge, right? Because you're right. Everyone's body is different. Some people are super, super skinny naturally. Other people are just, it's a lot harder to lose weight.
Right.
They gain weight easier. And so, or they're just thicker. But I think the bigger question is, how do you feel? Like, that's a real question we should be asking. How do I feel? Do I have energy? Can I exercise? Can I go for a long walk or a hike or a run? Can I get on a bike and go for a bike ride? Like, do my knees hurt because there's so much weight on them? Like, that's the real question, is how do I feel? And, okay, so then the vanity side of it, whether I'm comfortable in my body or I'm not, like, put that aside, right? It's how do I feel? Do I feel like I am thriving? Do I feel like that my body's gonna work with me as I age, right? And as you're younger, again, you think that everything invincible, like you're fine, you're gonna be great forever. I'm telling you, you're not. Like, you're not. And we know as a fact that that's not true, right? And so if you look at how do I feel today, how do I want to feel tomorrow, how do I want to feel in 5 years, 10 years, that's the question people should be asking themselves. If you feel good in your body and you have extra weight on you, good for you, right? Like no body shaming.
Right.
But and I think a lot of that's a cover too. I think when people are like, I'm fat and I'm proud,
right,
I think that's a cover. And I think that they're hiding behind the lack of really taking care of themselves.
I would agree with that.
So let's say that we're getting rid of all Diet Coke, because I had Diet Coke the other night. I went like 10 years without a Diet Coke, and now for some reason I'm like
back on the
craving
wagon.
Because it's that addicting. You can't actually have one. You can't have one.
I know. I have maybe one a week. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a bad food. Can you give us one food that we should all be eating?
God, I don't know if I can answer it as a one food. I can answer it as a one superfood that changed my life. But let me think about the one food. I mean, it's hard. That's a hard one for me to answer because I think everyone's body is different. And I say that from the standpoint of somebody could say kale. Everyone should eat kale, right? Like, that's going to change the world. Or broccoli. Right? Well, if you have hormone issues or thyroid issues, then cruciferous vegetables aren't great for thyroid. They actually slow your thyroid. So yeah, broccoli is really good for you, except for that. Kale is really hard to digest, right? We had a kale movement a few years ago.
Yes,
Remember
we
that?
did.
It was on everything.
And it was on
chips. It was in the burgers. It was on the nuggets. It was a kale wrapped nugget. It was kale everything. Kale hats.
We had a moment.
Socks.
And we had a quinoa moment too. And both of those are really hard to digest and can cause all sorts of digestive issues. And I'm not saying they're good, I'm not saying they're bad, but a lot of people wasn't optimal, right? So it's hard for me to think about one food. And I don't know, if I asked you, what would you say?
I mean, I don't know the power of a lot of these foods that you do. I know what I'm told to eat and what I'm told not to eat, and I just kind of followed that because I've been going to a biochemical nutritionist.
Ooh, cool.
She's trying to help me identify my crap.
Yeah.
And so kale is one thing that she told me not to eat.
Right. And also it changes. So I think it's also important to say, like, we've got the coconut creams and we got the almond milks and we've got all this. So I would say one thing I would stay away from as much as you could, besides the processed foods and the obvious, I think the dairy. So I'm going to say what to stay away from.
Okay.
Dairy, we're not meant to drink milk. It's not normal for a human to drink another animal's milk.
And if you look in the animal kingdom, I learned this a long time ago, they feed their young until they're a few weeks old and then they're done for life.
Yeah.
No more milk.
Not normal. And that's that. And so And then you go into the yogurts, and all of this dairy, and then cheese is on everything. And I love cheese. Don't get me wrong. Like
Cheese
you
is
give
on
me cheese
everything.
and wine, and I'm like
Yeah.
in heaven.
Cheese
But
is
I
the
only have
original
goat
kale.
and sheep. I do goat and sheep because it's a lot less inflammatory and it doesn't have all the other chemicals in it, right? It's much purer, right? So that's just my choice. I know that I still feel the effect of having the cheese, but it's a choice that I make when I do it, right? So, but all the yogurt stuff out there, I think that's one of the biggest false kind of movements is most of it's loaded with sugar. You can have a yogurt that has 25 grams of sugar. Are you kidding me? Like, I'd rather have a Snickers bar
Yeah.
if I don't have that many grams of sugar.
He's
And
not gonna argue
and
with
it's
you.
gonna be better
Yeah.
for you,
And we're
right?
choosing.
And so I think that's one that we especially from an inflammation standpoint. You're having aches and pains in your body. You're feeling a little fluffy in the face, right? You want to just stop, like maybe make your digestion work better. Take out the dairy, see what happens. Like that's so. I'm gonna answer your question with a takeaway.
Okay.
What I will say though is when people ask me what food changed my life, and I'm going to say food, it's really a superfood. There's a couple. I'd say turmeric is one.
I need to write. Oh, turmeric. Okay. I
Turmeric
know
is
about that.
one, and we all kind of know that, and I think their curcumin and the anti-inflammatory properties of turmeric, and it fights all the other there's diseases, and they say it's anti-cancer and all those things. So like you can't go wrong with turmeric. But the one that I cannot live without now, and that was part of how Chroma started, is matcha.
Okay.
And
Explain
I say
how
matcha
important that
because
is.
most people drink coffee, right?
Right.
I don't have a bad rap. Do you drink coffee?
Yes, I do.
Do you drink coffee?
No.
Okay. What do you drink? How do you start your day?
Mountain Dew.
Oh, dude. Okay. But at
drink
least it's
Mountain
not
Dew.
diet, right?
No, I would never drink a
Mountain
diet.
Dew in the morning?
I would never drink a diet anything.
God, you're like my husband. He likes that crap too. It looks like urine.
It looks like urine, but I
It
remember
does, it's
drinking it when I
yellow.
was a kid. I know, it looks disgusting. But again, it's so addicting.
It comes in different colors.
It's addicting. And he probably would go on like major withdrawals if he tried to come off, but like I'll challenge you to see
I
if
have
you
to go to
can
a rehab center. if
You
I
might
start
have
taking
to.
Mountain Dew.
I know. And that's exactly what they
Betty
want to have
Ford.
happen.
I'll
So
be Betty Ford.
So for people drinking coffee, I was like the majority of people. My morning coffee was my go-to. I want to say this, I don't have an issue with coffee. I just think that matcha's better.
Okay.
If you need that morning caffeine, right? So what I was finding with coffee, and especially as we get older, and women can relate to this a lot, is it was making me irritable. It was making me a little bit just like crawling out of my skin. More anxiety, more anxiousness, right? Just unsettled, right?
Yeah.
And then usually there's a crash, right? And I didn't want to stop though, because you wake up and you like love that cup of
smell
coffee.
it,
You can't
it's
wait.
just the
It's
whole
one of the best parts of the day.
Routine of it.
And if you're drinking a latte, like you cannot wait for
No.
that morning moment. So when I transitioned, and it was a forced transition, it was like, all right, this is not good for me, and it's also so acidic. So talk about inflammatory,
I know.
right? The acid is inflammatory.
Yeah.
Horrible on your gut, right? And so as we're getting older, usually we have more gut issues because we probably had some parasites along the way, and lots of other things have sort of like messed up what's happening down here. We've probably had too many antibiotics that killed all our gut flora. So now you throw coffee on top of that, and it's just like the perfect storm. So I was like, all right, I have to switch to something, but I'm not going to give up that morning moment, and I still want a little bit of caffeine. I heard about matcha, and when I learned about matcha and the benefits, so the benefits of matcha are, there's caffeine, but it's a slow release caffeine, so you don't get that hit and that jolt. It has 130 times the antioxidants of green tea, which we know green tea is good for you, but like this is like on steroids. So you get all of that like anti-aging, you get that sort of immunity boosting, like all the antioxidants that come in a matcha. You have L-theanine, which is so powerful for just mood boosting, actually reducing stress and anxiety, and creating mental clarity, right? So on and on and on, right?
Okay.
So for me, transitioning to matcha, as much as I resisted it at first because most matcha tastes terrible, and I'll come back to that, but when I found good matcha and then I was drinking it and transitioned, I was like, oh my God, my life changed. And it's such a silly thing to say, that something that simple, but I no longer had that morning anxiety, I no longer had the jitters. my skin got better, my brain got clearer, all the things that it says it does, it does. And so that was actually sort of how Chroma started.
Okay, you just sold me on matcha, because I think I drink a pot of coffee in the morning.
Oh dear God. Okay, yes, we're gonna change that. And I actually brought you
You're giving me
matcha.
trouble about Mountain Dew.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
Wait a minute here.
Which one should I intervene on first?
Wait
Where's the
a
intervention?
minute here. I thought, what's
Here,
wrong with you?
I'm gonna give you spicy passion.
Yeah.
You're gonna get your spicy passion. You're gonna get your beauty matcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chroma.
Yeah.
Please tell us what Chroma is, because this is a very exciting, should we call it a venture?
A venture, like venture, yeah.
Yes.
It's a movement, really.
It is.
Yeah.
So these detoxes and these cleanses, what is yours? Tell us all about Chroma.
Yeah. So, and I'll take a step back from that too, because it really goes back to everything we're talking about. How do I make healthy taste amazing, approachable, sexy, fun, delicious, easy? Like that's like
yeah.
That was what we went into Beaming. That's what's gone into this, right? So, and Beaming was challenging because it was all perishables. You had to have a cafe, and we grew it to 10 cafes before I left, and it's now owned by Earth Bar. But I was like, how do I reach more people? Like, this is changing people's lives. Like, I want to do more of that. But when it's perishables, we couldn't ship it, and so it's like I wanted it to be more accessible. So I basically took all the good of what Beaming was and recreated it in like a powder-based form that really could fit into people's lifestyle. So Chroma is really a lifestyle wellness company. We launched 2 months ago. I've been working on it for over 3 years, literally just playing with superfoods. But going back to the matcha piece of it, it literally started, I mean, yes, I've been doing these things and playing with superfoods for 14 years now. And in the kitchen, I call it kind of my mad scientist stuff, trying to figure out how to work with superfoods and make healthy taste amazing so people want it and have the cravings that you did. But the matcha one for me sort of was one of the light bulb moments, because I was like, wait, this matcha is changing my life. Like, everyone should drink this, right? So it was sort of my subliminal, and I started giving it to my friends, and then they became obsessed. And then because I'm a superfood geek and sort of pioneer in that way and have been playing with these things for so long, I was like, I'm gonna take the matcha and I'm gonna add collagen, because we know collagen's great for us and we know it's great for the hair, skin, and nails. And it has some protein in it. It's lacking an amino acid, but it's still really good for us. I'm gonna add some turmeric, because we love turmeric. Ginger's great for digestion. Put some mushrooms in it that are like beautifying mushrooms, because medicinal mushrooms and these lion's manes, and all these different, the shagas and the rishis, etc. So put some great mushrooms in there and give it just enough sweet, but keep it low sugar. What I have in here, maca, because maca is actually a hormone balancing and libido boosting. So what's not to love about that? So I took all my favorite superfoods, mixed it in to one product. But what I was doing, because at the time I was traveling all the time, and so I would carry 8 superfoods with me and mix them in my hotel room and like make my morning matcha. And that was like, well, what if I just create a product that has all of it in? So that's actually how Chroma started. And so it started with matcha, and then I kept building it and building it and building it. And then sort of went back to and wanted to create kind of this just, real collection of great products, whether it was lattes, like the one I just was showing you is the
so
Spicy
tell
Passion.
us what's the difference between these 4 that we have here today?
So I just brought we launched 2 months ago with 19 products, which for any entrepreneur listening to this, I don't recommend that. Usually not the way that you launch, but it was necessary because of the quote cleanse detox that I'll talk about in a second. I needed to bring together 19 products into one 5-day program.
Okay.
And then make those products available so that people
Could maintain.
could keep going.
Yeah.
Like keep all the good going.
Yeah.
So this one, there's lattes, there's bone broths, there's superfood snacks like the cookie butter and porridge, there's smoothies, there's tea, there's elixirs like a hydration elixir, super greens elixir. So it's like this whole compilation, all of which I created in my kitchen with my daughter.
That's crazy.
And literally playing with superfoods and just like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and finding really good maple sugar from Vermont. And so like this one that I was giving you, just playfully to see if we can replace your Mountain Dew, is Spicy Passion Latte, which is a cacao, like a spicy hot chocolate, but it has mushrooms, the shaga, and what is it? What other ones we put in here? All sorts of good stuff. We've got lucuma, goji, maca, mesquite, lots of good stuff. Pumpkin spice, shaga mushrooms, cordyceps, etc. So that in this, and it's like this decadent, like just cup of like, yeah, I'll drink that. Like instead of a milkshake, like this is just like heaven, right? So I try to create things like cookie butter, where you eat it and you feel like you're having this dessert. Like you love creamy bites.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
this is insane. So everything's just like craveable, but enjoyable, easy. Throw it, like we have it in sachets, throw it in your purse, it goes with you. We're all busy. I did it, like again, I don't have time. So we're all busy. I don't have time to make food for myself in the day.
So it's grab and go.
It's grab and go. I'm an entrepreneur with 3 kids, single mom, live in 2 cities, have raised a lot of money from some really powerful people.
It's really exciting what you've done. I mean, I've been following you on Instagram. So, I mean, so who are some of your backers?
So what I'll start by saying,
Yes.
it's 95% funded by women.
That's
which is
amazing.
Super rad.
That's really
And
great.
that was a vision that I had early on. Not easy to do, actually, because the women aren't the ones that said yes first. It's actually men. Dick Costello, the former CEO of Twitter, was my first check. John Callahan from True Ventures, who was the first check in Peloton, was my second check. And Brian Meehan from Blue Bottle Coffee was my third check.
How do you get meetings with these guys?
You get one person to say yes after about 100 have said no.
Yeah.
Or 1,000, however many it is.
That one yes leads
And then
to
that
more.
one introduces you to somebody else and introduces you to somebody else.
Yeah.
And Dick Costello was the connection to many of those. And then a woman named Jenny Lefcourt, who was the one first female, who then introduced me to other women who then went from there. But it's not easy. And the process of raising capital, well, I'll tell a better story with this, just for anyone that's interested. So November 3rd of last year, this is the really juicy stuff. I didn't have $1 to my name. I couldn't pay rent, and literally wasn't sure. Like I was like, am I gonna have to move in with my parents? And mind you, I still have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And because I'd been raising money, we started raising money for Chroma right the day before COVID started.
Oh.
And I was already on my lifeline because I had already used my 401k. Every dollar to my name I had put into this. And all of a sudden, like day before, the world shuts down, no way you're gonna ask people for money, right? And so you're like, we're trying to figure out toilet paper and like this whole new life and world that we're living in. So that's off the table. So what I did because of that is I just went in the kitchen and I created the 5-day wellness program. And I just was like, all right, like go in and make this a thing, right? Like it's not just like, here's the vision, but like we're actually gonna make an actual product.
Yeah.
So while I was waiting out COVID, and I really just went out to do that, and then that became how I started to like have people try the beta program, and then they loved it, and then they were like, hey, telling their friends, like Amy Coleman did it, right, and Dick Costello did it. So that sort of left, but I still couldn't get yeses, right? That first check is the hardest check, and you have to have the thickest skin. As I'm like waking up with anxiety every morning at 3 a.m. going, oh my God, like how am I gonna pay rent? How am I gonna do this? But also knew I can't not do it, because everything that we talked about earlier today is what drives me. And I was like, this has to exist in the world. I know so much of my purpose is like to change lives, and I know how to make healthy taste amazing. I can do it in ways that really fit into people's lives, and people are excited about it, and they want to enjoy it, like beaming.
Right.
So this has to happen, but I'll never forget November 3rd. It was a Monday, like the day before election day, and rent was due on November 1st, and I couldn't pay it, and the first check came in. And I'm gonna have a big party this year on November 3rd, by the way.
As you should.
Yes.
So, and then it just sort of kind of kept coming. But then, and this will go back to the question you had about who's involved. So now we're in February and we haven't raised all the money yet. And I'm like still shaking because we need $2.5 million to push go, to place our orders, to really get off the ground. And I think we have like 1.3 million raised. And I'm exhausted. I'm like, it's a Sunday morning. I'm just like, how am I gonna do this? Like, we've got money, but like, we need more to
Right.
really do this. And I get a text from one of our investors, a female investor, and she says, check your email. And there's an email from Gwyneth Paltrow, who emailed me. And,
I just got chills. I just got chills.
Yeah, it was
That's a big deal.
It was a big deal, and she messaged me and said, Lisa, you know what a fan I have always been of yours. I heard you have a new venture. I'd love to hear more. She had known of me through Beaming and loved Beaming. I can't tell you that I knew that she was a fan of mine. So that was,
That was nice.
Those moments.
I mean,
That's a good Sunday.
You are right to the top of the health and wellness community in
Yeah.
Guru.
Yeah.
I mean, her whole Goop enterprise is
It's about this.
Is this?
Yeah, it's about this. And she's been incredible. And she has been such a supporter, and she invested, along with Jessica Seinfeld, Amy Schumer, which I love, like it's like the sort of extremes, right? I mean, Amy Schumer would never claim to be like the guru of health and wellness, right? But she loved this, and this changed her life, right? Greg Renfrew from Beauty Counter, Candace Nelson from Sprinkles and Pizzana. We just have the most incredible group of investors, and then all of everybody else in between.
Yeah.
And every single one of these investors is like, what can I do? How can I help? I'm in. And that's
But if
so
you're
fun.
investing in something that you love and believe in, you're going to be part of the process of getting the word out.
No, it's so fun. And it's like we've been active now for about 10 weeks. We all of our marketing so far has been through organic, and it's been through our investor community and friends of the brand and our PR that people have gotten excited about and rallied because they felt the difference.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I keep going back to is like, so the 5-day wellness program is really sort of that like awakening, right? You consume Chroma for 5 days, you customize it to your own needs, you add what you need, whether you need to add protein or you want to add vegetables to your broths. I mean, you add as much as you need because it's also about teaching you about getting in touch with your body, right? And everybody's body is different in what they need. But the foundation of the program is like literally powders that you add water to, or add some almond milk or non-dairy milk to, and the rest you sort of just, it's so easy. But the part that really excites me is it's a reset in life, right? Which it's bigger than just the food you're putting in your body. It's literally like you're taking control of your health. You're saying, I'm going to take care of me for 5 days. I'm going to make that commitment. Whether you've been drinking too much, eating too much, on vacation, just lost your way, don't know how to start your way, wherever you're at, it sort of just kind of fits in. It's so enjoyable. I don't believe in starvation and deprivation. I think that that's bogus, not necessary. I don't think you learn anything because it just teaches your body to go into starvation mode. And then when you're done, so what? You lost a couple pounds. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like,
You gain them right back anyway.
You're gonna get
Next
right
day,
back.
yeah.
And so for me, I've always approached this Beaming was the same way. It was like, I care more about what happens after than the quote cleanse itself. Because those 5 days that you commit to taking care of yourself are like those moment of truth where, yeah, you lost some weight.
Right.
You look great. Inflammation went down. Your energy went better. That people say they have the best workouts of their life. Like, you can work out on this because we didn't take the nutrition away. We actually fueled you with nutrition. Your mind was great. You were able to show up for your kids. You went to the office. Like, you were on, like game on. What is there not to love about that? And it only took 5 days. And so that goes back to the early on where it's like we make it more complicated than it actually is. I mean, in 1 day, you can feel better when you just take the shit out. It's
Yeah.
like just start there. I mean, I would challenge, I'm gonna go back to the point where what we were saying earlier, which is, this is what I did with my daughter, right? So imagine she's 10, 11 years old, and you're gonna tell a kid she can't have pizza and pasta and sandwiches when all her kids are having Doritos. I was like, hey, let's play a game. What if we, like for 2 weeks, let's just eat, vegetables and fruit, and we'll eat this healthy stuff, and we'll make it fun, and let's see how we feel. And like, imagine, like most kids would be like, what? But because I made it a game, right?
Right.
And it was like, okay, we're all gonna do this together, and we're gonna see, like, we're gonna wake up every day, and we're gonna talk about how do you feel today, and how I feel, and like, then everyone's in it, because now it's like, wait, like, Mom,
Competition.
It's yeah, like, and who feels better and why, and you make a conversation about it. But like, that happens in 1 day. Literally in 1 day, when you take the shit out, your body might go into total panic. Your body's probably gonna freak out if you take out Mountain Dew. Like, I'm gonna give you that
I'm
for a
pretty
few
sure it
days.
will. I'm pretty
You
sure
might
it will.
have to submit you to some sort of detox program. But
Put it on the drip.
and so, okay, you might take a week. But the point is, in a very short amount of time, you can feel better fast. Now, coffee matcha, because I believe in lifestyle approaches to things, and I don't think when we pull everything out, that's not the way we learn, that's not how we grow, it's not how we have the tools to then carry forward, because it's really the choices that you make every day that lead to health, vitality, well-being, longevity, all the things that we really want. It's the choices that you make every day, not what you do 5, 10, 15 days a year. So these ridiculous programs out there that are these quick fixes,
Yeah.
that's all they are. And it's like, then you're right back where you started. So I think, unless under a care of a physician over a certain purpose, that you're doing some sort of really deep detox or something, but that's very different, right? Than just getting back on track or not knowing how to incorporate healthy food in your diet, and so this is a starting point, right? And then, what happens is that people feel so good, they lose the weight, if that was the goal, they're inspired, they want to learn more, and then they can use any of their favorite stuff and just keep going in their life. I have Chroma 5 to 8 times a day. And meaning that I have one of our products 5 to 8 times a day. I start my day with the matcha. I have a porridge for breakfast. I'll have our hydration elixir. I have our super greens elixir. I always have at least one bone broth. The bone broth was my lunch today. I sauteed in some salmon cakes and some vegetables. Sometimes I just have it by itself. Dinner tonight I'll probably have bone broth again. I love it that much, right? And then I'll have our magnesium for dinner, or for after dinner, just for sleep and digestion, and for just overall muscle recovery. So it's a lifestyle-based thing, and I think that that's really where, if we can help people simplify their lives, let you focus on your kids, let you focus on your business, the things that you love, and go out for a beautiful dinner. I can't wait to go have champagne and oysters or whatever, this weekend. But I just have the tools that I can just incorporate easily.
Yeah. It's all about knowledge and knowing what you're putting in your body and knowing the benefits.
Absolutely. And we need the resets, because if you really think about it, like it's
to clean it out. I mean, we gotta
clean
clean it out. There's all kinds of goo in there.
It's to clean it out, and to also just, and I guess I'll go back to like the reset of your life, right? Because when you take control of your health, you feel really good. And like there's like something else that shifts in you outside of the physical benefits. There's a mental, reset that happens. Like you are sort of like, I can do anything, right? Like you've just given this gift to yourself, and it was 5 days. Like you really didn't suffer.
Deal. Yeah.
Like who cannot do that? Whether you do Chroma or you do something, some other thing, you make the food yourself and you get really, because you have the time, right? Which again, most of us don't have the time. Most of us don't have the wherewithal or want to have to even think about figuring it out, right? But if that's your jam, go for it. All I'm suggesting is give yourself that 5-day gift where you take out the shit, put in the good, get mindful, sit present with your body, feel how you feel in your body when you feed it well. Do not starve yourself. That's not going to help you thrive. It's going to make you hate.
Sick too.
It's going to make you feel terrible. Yeah. And then you're going to just you're not going to want to continue, and then you'll dread ever doing it again. Right? So, and give yourself that gift, whether you Google this afterwards and you buy Chroma, or you Google just 5-day healthy detox, right? Nourishment. Focus on nourishment, not starvation. And all sorts of other transformations happen when you do that.
Last question.
Yes.
It's going to be the hardest question.
I can only imagine.
We're finna go deep. Okay.
Did we not already?
No, we finna go
What
deep.
did I miss?
We finna go deeper than deep.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about this during this entire time we've been sitting here. And I want to go deep on it. Tell me about your kitchen. What's your favorite part of your kitchen?
My kitchen, as in my little mad
well, you made
scientist.
all this in your kitchen at your home.
My favorite part of my kitchen.
It's been a really important part of this, because that's where all this came from, your kitchen. I mean, obviously your mind, your heart, your ideas, but your kitchen played a big part in this. What's the favorite part of your kitchen?
Well,
I feel like I've been in there after this conversation.
That's amazing. I mean, you should have seen my daughter and I literally for 3 years, just measuring, little, and then just all of our jars, 50 jars of superfoods and stuff. So that's I wish I could tell you, because I have moved so many times that I'm in a new kitchen now, right? I literally moved the week after we launched, while I had COVID, mind you. and like didn't even have time to get sick. And the reason why I got COVID is because I had been beaten down, exhausted, traveling, not taking care of myself, and like in the perfect storm to get it, right?
You got it.
Didn't get sick. I was fine. I got sort of the COVID darkness, which is a whole other conversation that was awful. But I think to answer your question on the kitchen, so I'm in a new kitchen now.
Congratulations.
And I have a beautiful ocean view kitchen, and my last kitchen was great, and I had, a beautiful, just open space.
So it's the
just
view.
Community.
She loves the
view.
view.
I love the view. I love the view.
That'll inspire
And
anybody.
actually, it's
in a
hilarious
kitchen.
because my new kitchen is so stupid in that I have this
A good
beautiful
stupid.
view. It's so stupid because like I don't know if it was made for like miniature people because I rent, right? Like I can't even put a turkey in the oven for like Thanksgiving if I wanted to make one. It's like a little miniature
Mini oven?
and it's this mini stovetop. Like you can't have more than 2 things cooking on the stovetop at one time. The fridge, I was like, we're like little people living here, like, and mind you, like the view is massive, right?
Right.
I'm like, did we forget about the kitchen?
Too focused on the view. What about the refrigerator?
I know, it's the funniest thing. So like, and like in a microwave, like it's like this big.
It's
and
tiny.
It's funny. So
Lisa,
that's what's really funny.
where can everybody find you? How can we follow along with Chroma? Spell it, fill everybody in.
Awesome. So it's Chroma Wellness, and it's with a K, Kroma wellness.com.
Okay.
Think of the word chroma, Chroma, right, which is really color, the purity of color. And we're really kind of playing on that as like the purity of Mother Nature and the vibrancy of matcha and turmeric and
Nice.
goji berries, right?
Yeah.
So it's Chroma with a K, and wellness.com, or also on Instagram at Chroma Wellness. And if you Google us, you'll see all sorts of fun articles. We won Best Reset, or we were named Best Reset, Most Delicious Reset in Vogue. There's a fun article in Forbes about sort of my fundraising story and lots of other kind of accolades that we've been acknowledged for over the last few months.
Well, keep doing what you're doing. I love that you're just opening it up to everybody and you make it
Thank you.
exciting.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, this
So
has been
glad
such
you
a fun
were here.
conversation. You've got me inspired. I wanted to tell you, like, I'm noodling now because you've brought up some things that are really, really, really important, and I want to take that to heart.
Thank you.
And
I
think
appreciate
through
that.
sort of what we can do to play more of an impact, in some of those.
Include
kind of-
everybody.
Yeah, and be more inclusive.
That's
So yeah,
fantastic.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
So, but yeah, and thank you for
Thank
the conversation. It was so
you.
much fun. I love
All
it.
right.
It's awesome.